Hi, so this video is for people who have told ghosts to leave their home. Um, how do you do it? Do you shout at them? Do you ask them politely? I just watched this woman who was scared, and I guess she had a baby with her, and so maybe she didn't want to shout. But she just asked this entity that was moving around in her bathroom and creaking her door and her floor to dip by saying, "Please leave. You're not wanted here. Please leave." And like the chillest tone ever. And I think as a healer who's had experiencing in removing entities from people and places, that the conviction behind your voice shows your power. Now, for this woman in particular, probably she didn't want to alarm her child, so obviously. But I, for example, was driving and there were a group of individuals standing on the sidewalk shouting their propaganda with a loudspeaker so that when you drove by, it entered your car. And the vibe was so bad that it like went into the core of my body, and it was awful. And so I shouted once. I was like, "You're not mine. You're not mine. Get out of here. I don't want you here." And then I was driving for like another stoplight and it was still in there. And I felt how enraged I was, and I had to scream again, "Get out of here. You're not mine. I don't need you here." And then after that, I was fine. And so if I had to do that just for someone's emotion that was being spread through a loudspeaker on the corner as I drove by, would you not have to use the same conviction and strength behind your voice in order to get an entity to leave your home? And when I was doing healing for a client of mine, the deeper that I got into like the flow state of chanting and requesting for the person to leave, this client alone, I began shouting louder and louder to the extent that I could feel the energy coming up from my feet out through my mouth, like the connection, the body, the strength of the words in order to move the entity away was like a whole body force. And I just feel like potentially that's the same force that you would have to use in order to move something out of your home. Now, I luckily am not haunted by anything, and I'm very grateful for that. And this is not an invitation. Ghosts who are watching this, I do not want you here. But I've been thinking about a lot of things while watching all of these scary compilations. Like, if your attic door continues to open, why not like lock it shut? Like, you know, with those those like doorknob prop things that you could get off those fancy like mail catalogs that my grandma used to get, where it had a rubber stopper at the end and a rubber stopper at the other end, and you'd put it under your doorknob and then it would stick to the floor and you couldn't move it because my grandma was always really worried that people were going to burgle her house. Why not put one of those in your attic door so that your door stops opening? I don't know. Why aren't we doing that? And then the other concept I was thinking about, and I spoke to a lot of people on Reddit about this today, and it makes sense why you wouldn't. But I was thinking, like, if you were to, as just like a layman, just a regular human person, not even as a medium, decide to leave gifts for the ghosts that are haunting you, would you potentially be able to alleviate the suffering that you are facing because these ghosts don't want you in their home. And I guess the answer to that question is don't leave gifts for ghosts, according to the mediums I've spoken to on Reddit, because there's a potentiality that if you don't know what the entity is, that you are strengthening a spirit that has malice towards you and wants to hurt you. And I was like, yeah, that's true, but I guess I was just hoping that in this world, as like a regular person, where you don't understand that you can contact someone to help you, that if you were just like, I'm sorry, ghost, here's a glass of water or something, that the ghost would be like, cool, we're cool now. Sorry about that. I won't throw knives at you when you come into the kitchen, or I won't knock pictures off the wall, or I won't scare the shit out of you while you're in the shower. And like, that's just like common decency, you know what I mean? And so that's what I was really thinking about, is can we develop a relationship of just like common decency with a ghost, or are we always going to be in a place where they are the other for us and we are the other for them? And it's like we're existing in the same place at the same time, but we're not existing at the same place in the same time, because it's like the physics too of these otherworldly entities are so different than that of what we're witnessing in our world and the way that we think of as like the laws of our world, you know? They move faster than we can comprehend. And I saw like a video of a child's body get pulled out of a bed, and like the whole clip was one speed except for the speed of the child, where it was like in a different time continuum. Like I can't explain it, but it's like their laws that govern their world don't govern our world. And to me, there's like this rift between the way we communicate because of those things. And so, like, I guess, you know, like, still what I was saying in that last video about like questions for ghosts is that, like, if we could just figure out a way for an everyday person to like have a ghost detection guide, and then they be able to communicate with ghosts, figure out what it is that they wanted, and then remove them from their house without like having to call a medium, then maybe people would feel like they had control over their space. Because from what I'm witnessing online and these ghost compilation videos I've been watching and the stories I've been reading on Reddit, is that the main thread through all of this is that the everyday person doesn't feel like they have control over the things that are happening to them. And that lack of control is actually what's really scary. And what produces a lot of fear is not knowing what the entity wants and what the entity plans to do, if there's actually malice against you, or if, like, you know, they're being like a cat and just testing the laws of physics because they're trapped in between two realities that have two different physical laws. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm just like spitballing here. But I've been thinking so much about the paranormal realm, and there's so many questions that I have, and this is my hair. There's no reason to get freaked out, Angelina. There's just so much going on in the worlds, how they're separate but they're the same, that I wish that as a medium myself, that I wish that there was something that we could do for regular people to give them a semblance of control and safety over their personhood and their personal space. You know what I mean? Because like your home is a sacred space, and to be uninvited there from an entity that lives there and feels like they have control over the space that you're supposed to have control over isn't like cool. It's not fair. I know that's not like the best way to put it, but it's not fair. And I don't know, I just feel like I have a personal responsibility to fucking help people cut it out. And like, what is the shit One last thing. I was watching this video today, and he was like, the owners of this cursed rocking chair are selling the cursed rocking chair to somebody else, even though their house wasn't haunted until they purchased the cursed rocking chair. Why are they selling the cursed rocking chair to somebody then? Why would you just give one haunted item to another person who then is going to be haunted? That kind of shit I think is also crazy. Like, if you know an object is cursed and or haunted, why would you give it to somebody else so that they can then experience what you experienced? We have to like stop the cycle. I don't know. I feel like on one hand there's a lot of things that you can learn from the dead. There's a lot of information that you can get from your ancestors. There's a lot of communication that you can get from communicating with spirits that can educate you in whatever way that you need to be educated if you have the capacity to just speak with them. But like sometimes things are just acting a fool and we need to get them to pass on, and like in the spirit of like a cursed doll or like a cursed fucking rocking chair, we just need to get it out of here.